Hi and welcome to Teach the Table. I'm Nathan and today I'm going to teach you how to play Caylus. It's a Euro-style worker placement game set in medieval France where you're trying to build a royal town. For me, when I first learned how to play this game, it was pretty difficult, hard to wrap my mind around it. So my pain is going to be your gain and I will break it down as easy as possible. Let's get to it. Caylus is a game where we are all master builders in 13th century France, and we've been tasked by the king here to turn a small little village into a big prosperous city that has enough resources so we can eventually help build the castle as seen up here. It's a worker placement game, so each person's going to have their own little worker pieces here, and you're going to place them around the board and try to get points. The person with the most points is the winner. In this game they're called prestige points for making the king happy. The ways you're going to get points in this game are by building various buildings here along the road, which are worth points, and if other people go to your buildings then you'll get points as well. You get a little benefit there. You also get points for helping build sections of the castle, and you also can get points if you get what are called royal favors up here. So if you ever see the icon kind of like what's on his cloak there, this little gold fleur-de-lis icon on the board, those indicate royal favors. So there's an actual track up here where the king will do something for you. The main mechanism of Caylus is placing your little workers on the board one at a time in player order, and you can place them on various sections, either buildings that you'd like to take out actions on in the future, or you can place them up here in the castle section if you'd like to help build the castle. Now you have to be careful because even though you're placing workers there, you might not actually get to do that action, and that's because we have these other two people involved in this project of the city. The bigger one is called the bailiff and the smaller one is called the provost. The way that I think of them is that the bailiff is the head honcho in charge, the big man on campus, and he's just slowly meandering down this road, either one or two spaces each round, and what that's going to tell you is how close you are to scoring certain sections of the castle up here, as well as how close you are to the game being over. The other guy, the little provost, he's a small little Weasley guy who is corruptible, so people will have more control of moving him up or down the board, or at certain points we could even bribe him with money to move up or down the board. And why that's important is because the actions of each building along the road here, they go out in order. You can think of it kind of like programming language. So this one's going to go first. If someone has a worker on it and we just go down this way, it's always going to stop at the spot where the provost is. So you still get to do this space, but it's not going to go any further. So if people had buildings down here that they were trying to do, if the provost ends right there, they're not going to get to do it. So their worker was kind of wasted. Some particular areas of the board to make note of, firstly is the point tracker on the outside. That just keeps track of your victory points. We all have counters up here to move along as we gain points. There's also a turn order track right here next to the castle, so that's randomly at the start of the game. We're going to figure out who's going first, second, and third and place our little discs there so that we know that. This is the royal favor track, so there's 4 different tracks with 5 spaces each, so our colors as we get favors are going to move up that way. We also have, at the beginning of the road, we have the special buildings which are printed on the board, so it's always the same buildings there. We have this bridge here, which is where the provost, we can bribe the provost, the little Weasley guy, to move around the board. And then after the bridge we have these neutral buildings here. So these pink buildings are all randomly shuffled out and put in a random order, but it's always the same 6 buildings. And there's other various buildings printed along the board here, so those can't be covered up, but new buildings can be placed in the other empty spots as we go on. It is important to note that as far as the phases in the game, these buildings happen in order, but that's a separate phase. Then we have the bridge phase, and then we have the rest of the building phases here. And that's important because if you get royal favors, one of the rules with royal favors is you can't, if you get more than one, you can't have 2 on the same track there. So you'd have to split them out as long as it's in the same phase. So if you got royal favors in this phase and some down here, those are separate. So you could do them along the same track up at the top. After activating all the buildings that we can, then we go to the castle. So if anyone placed workers up there, going in order here from who placed them first, they get to pay resources to help build the castle if they'd like. After all that is done, then it's the end of that turn, and we determine if we need to score any of the castles. So on the board, there's a few little spots here. There's one here and one, if you can see it, way down here. So those are going to tell us at what point we need to be scoring the castle, and I'll go over that in a second. Going into the phases in detail really quick, the first phase is just collecting income. So you're going to get 2 money, and you might get additional money if you have any other buildings on the board that you built that give you money there. So 2 plus any additional money from the board. After collecting income is the placing workers phase. So going in turn order, in this case green goes first, they're going to get to place one of their workers out on the board, and they have to pay money to do so. So starting out, the cost is this number right here, so it's going to be 1. We're all going to pay 1 money to place each worker out there. Now we're just the master builders, we are not the workers ourselves, so we still need to pay our people to go out there for us. So it's going to go around the board in turn order by paying 1 money at a time until someone says they don't want to do it anymore. Now if someone runs out of workers, or they run out of money, or they just plain don't have any actions that they want to do, the first person who says, hey, I'm done, can bow out. They put their little token here from the bridge onto that space. The first person gets 1 money for doing so, which it says on the board right there. So there is a little benefit of quitting first. Now everyone after that can place their workers, but it's going to cost 2 money for each worker, and so on and so on. So by the time the last person either has to choose if they're going to quit or they're going to pay 3 money for each worker. Most of the buildings on the board can only have 1 worker at a time, so you can't do one that someone else has already done, and you can't do the same thing twice. But some of them have multiple spots. Like if you look at this spot here, there's 3 spots. So the first person who wants to take that action goes in this first spot, and then the next person, and so on. This spot right here has 2 spots, but it moves to the right. So you're always going to put your 1 person on the left, and then when we activate buildings, he's going to move over to the right. So if there was anyone there, they'll stay there if they were there already, and then as we activate the building, that one will go away. Now up at the castle, it's kind of the same way as right here. The first player who wants to play in the castle is going to put 1 up there, and etc. in that order. If you've built a building down here, which is signified by your little colored house in the corner, and someone wants to place their worker there, then you get 1 victory point just for them using your building. If you go to use your own building, however, you don't get any extra victory point, but you do get a discount because you own it. It's only going to cost you 1, even if it should normally cost you 3 money to place a worker. So if you're putting it on your own building, you do get a discount there. Once everyone's placed as many workers as they want, and everyone has passed by putting their little thing down there, then we start activating the special buildings, just going along the road right here. So any buildings that have a worker on them are going to get activated. So I'll go over what those do. The first one, this gate here, has a little egg timer icon. So all that means is you get to move your person that's here onto any available space that doesn't have a worker on it. The next one here just gives you 3 money, so you get 3 money from the bank. This one here lets you move the little white provost, and you can move it 3 spaces forward or back, or up to 3 spaces. So you can move it 1, 2, or 3 for free. This one here, the little jousting field, lets you spend 1 money and 1 blue cube to get a royal favor. So you could do that, and you'd move one of your things up one of the royal favor tracks and get to take out the action up there, which I'll go over royal favors in a second. This spot here, the little stable house, if people have put their workers there, that's going to change the turn order track, and it's going to go based on the order that's here. So in this case, it wouldn't change at all because they're already first and second place, but let's say it was reversed like that. So red's going to go to first, and green would go to second. Black would not move at all since they didn't place one there. This spot down here is called the inn, and what that does is your person there will just move to the right, and then on the next phase, as you're placing workers, since they're staying in the inn, then they're right next to the bridge here, they don't actually have to pay the cost on here to place their workers. They just have to pay 1 at all times. So they can keep paying just 1, 1, 1, 1 and place as many workers as they want, as long as their token is there. Now on the next phase, if someone puts it there, then when we activate buildings, they're going to be kicked off. So green in the next phase of placing workers would be able to pay just 1 for all of their workers in that phase. So after all the special buildings are done, any of them that had workers on them, then we get to this bridge, and this is called the provost move. So starting with the first player, they can decide if they want to move the provost by bribing him. And they can move the provost up to 3 spaces, left or right, along the track. They do have to pay money though, so they're going to pay 1 to 3 money depending on how far they want to move him. So he would get to choose if he's going to do that, then this person, then this person. So there's up to 9 spaces forward or backward in this section that we would be able to move the provost. The next section here is the neutral buildings, so they're just going to go in order, and a lot of them just revolve around getting resources. So if you put a person there, you're going to get 1 gray cube. If you put a person here, you can convert 1 cube of any color to 4 money. If you put a person here, you get to decide, are you going to take a pink cube or are you going to take a blue cube, etc. There is a spot here which lets you build buildings, which I'll talk about next. There are 4 different types of buildings in this game aside from the pink neutral buildings, and they are wood, stone, residential, and prosperity buildings. So if you had a worker on an action to build a wood building, you get to take all of them and choose one that you'd like to build. Now there is a cost up in the upper left hand corner, so in this case it would be 1 brown and 1 pink cube, and then I would get 2 victory points for building that token. So if I was able to pay the cost to build it, I would get to take one of my little green houses, put it in the corner right there, and it's going to go on the next empty spot on the board to signify it's my building. So I'll get a discount. I'll only ever have to pay 1 money to put a worker there, and if anyone else goes there, I'll get 1 victory point. Eventually in the game, there's going to be this building which lets you build stone buildings. So stone buildings are going to go on the board in the same manner as the wood buildings that I just explained. There's also a wood building here which is called the lawyer, and the lawyer is going to let you build the green residential buildings. So the residential buildings and these prosperity buildings, the blue ones, go on the board in a little bit different manner. So if you use this action here, then you get to choose any of the spots on the board where there's either a pink neutral tile, or if you have a tile that you own that's one of your wood or stone buildings, then you can convert that to a residential building. So you would take out the action on here, you pay the cost on the residential building, which they're all the same, they're 1 money and 1 blue cube, and then you can replace any tile like so. There's also an action which is on a stone building that lets you build residential or prosperity buildings. Prosperity buildings go on top of residential buildings. So it would be on top of a residential building that you own. You take that out, pay the cost, get the points, and put that down. Now, both of these, the residential and the prosperity buildings, you cannot take actions out, so they just sit on the track. You can't put any workers on them, but they're going to give you potentially more money at the beginning of the income phase, and then the victory points that you get there. We'll continue activating buildings till we reach this provost. That's going to signify where the end of the actions are. So we'll get to still do this one if someone had a worker on there. And then we move on to the castle phase. So I'll zoom in on that. The castle is broken up into 3 different sections. We have the dungeon, the walls, and the tower. And we're going to build from left to right. It's also worth more points in the dungeon. So 5 points for each section, 4 points for the walls, 3 points for the tower. Now, in order to contribute, starting in the order of how you placed your workers up there, people have to contribute combinations of 3 cubes. One of them has to be pink, and then the other 2 have to be different types. All 3 cubes have to be different. So we could do pink, brown, and gray, pink, gold, and blue, etc. For each combination of 3, they get to place 1 of their little houses up there to signify that they've helped. And we'll keep doing that until it fills up. So if green contributed 2 different donations of that, then they would get 2 houses in there, and that's going to be worth an immediate 10 points, 5 points for each. Then black gets to contribute however many they want. Let's say black was only able to put 3 cubes, so they contributed just 1. So they would get to go there and get 5 points. Then we total up who contributed the most. So the person who contributed the most gets a royal favor, which they get to take out up here. And if someone put a worker up there and they're not able to contribute, remember this happens at the end. So we've already done all the actions on the board, and then we get to the castle. So if they don't have enough resources still in their hand to help out here, then they actually get -2 points. They're going to get -2 victory points for not being able to help. So you need to choose this carefully and don't go up there if you're not planning ahead. If there aren't enough spots in the section we're currently building, if they're all full, you can start moving on to the next section as we're building here. So you don't need to worry about that being an issue. Unless it's completely full, then you won't be able to build anymore. After building the castle, then we have the end of the turn, and that's where the bailiff here is going to move. And he's going to move depending on where the little provost guy is. So if the provost is on the same spot, or if he's anywhere before him on the road, then the bailiff is just going to move 1 spot forward. If the provost is ahead of him any number of spots, the bailiff will move 2 spots forward, and then the provost will always come and meet him. So they'll start out on the same spot every time. The last thing to do after moving the bailiff is to check if we're going to score each section of the castle. And that's signified by this section on the board. So if the bailiff has met or gone forward ahead of this space without scoring it yet, then we're going to score the castle. Now they call it scoring, but don't get it confused because we actually scored the castle up there when we built the little buildings up in the castle. But this scoring is for potentially royal favors or for negative points if people didn't build there at all. There's 2 things that will trigger that scoring. So the first, like I mentioned, is if the bailiff has reached this spot, then we're going to score the dungeon in this case. The other way that we would score it is if any section is already all the way filled up. So if all 6 of those spots had little colored houses in it, then the dungeon is done and we would score it. Now to score it, we're going to look up at the royal favor track up here. The royal favors track is broken up into columns here based on what section of the castle we're currently building. So right now we're doing the dungeon, so only these first 2 columns are available until the next round of the game. Then these first 4 will be available. Down here it shows the dungeon and it says 2 houses is what they're looking for. So we look over at the castle. Green's built 2 houses and black has built 1. So in this case, green built 2 houses. They're going to get 1 royal favor, which they can take out in these columns by moving 1 token to the right 1 spot. And black will get nothing because there isn't anything for just having 1 house. However, anyone who had 0 houses, so in this case red had 0, is going to get -2 victory points on the point track. In the next phase, they're expecting you to have 2, 3, or 5 houses for various royal favors, and then -3 points, etc. The way the royal favors track works is that you're going to move one of your tokens just 1 spot to the right on one of these tracks. Again, if you had gotten multiple royal favors, they'd have to be on different tracks. You can always get the benefit to the left if you'd like. So let's say that we did this one. Instead of getting, if I already had this royal favor and I got another one, if I didn't want a gray or brown cube, I could take a pink cube. You can always do the one to the left. And the other thing to keep in mind is, even if you're all the way to the right towards the end of the game, if you've already filled up this royal favor track completely, you don't have to take out a different one. You can still choose this one, you just wouldn't move it at all, and you could take 5 points. So you can continue just getting the same benefit all the way on the right if you're already over there. So after moving the bailiff and checking if the castle's going to score, that's the end of the turn. So we start the next turn with the income phase, the worker phase, the buildings phase, etc. And just play continues that way. The 3 sections of scoring here are the dungeon, the walls, and eventually the tower will score down at the bottom of the track here. And that will signify the end of the game. So after any point where you score the towers, either by getting to this spot or by filling up the towers completely up there, you would score that, and then that's the end of the game. There's also some additional points at the end that you're going to get based on whatever resources you have left that you haven't used. So for each 4 money you have, you're going to get 1 victory point. For each 3 random cubes, you're going to get 1 victory point. And then for each 1 gold cube, that's going to be 3 victory points at the end of the game. So that's how you play Caylus. The main strategy starting out is just to get resources. You can start building buildings and getting a little bit of an engine for yourself that way, or you can go straight up to the castle and start helping out in the castle. Just keep track of where other people are going. If they're going to the castle a whole bunch and you're not, you're going to be missing out on a huge opportunity for not only victory points, but eventually those royal favors when the castle scores. And you could get negative points if you're not helping out at all up there. So kind of got to watch what other people are doing and trying to stay on board with that. You've got all the information you need to play the game, so get to it and remember to have fun. If you like these videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and let me know down in the comments if there's any game that you want to see me cover on here. See you later.